Roses are bloody, violets are slick. When you rhyme without reason, it's like beating me with a stick. Let's talk about the use, or rather misuse, of rhyme in poetry. Not the world's most interesting subject, but give me a chance. The poem I opened this video with, well, first of all, it's a terrible poem. I ought to know, I wrote it. I wrote it out of frustration. It was intended as a criticism of a writing technique I observe far too often in amateur poets. Unfortunately, it also employs that exact same writing technique. So, again, it's a terrible poem. I would not recommend writing anything like that. Well, I wouldn't recommend submitting anything like that to a publisher. They're not going to take it seriously because it doesn't deserve to be taken seriously. I hate rhyming poetry, but that said, it can be done well. In order for it to be done well, it has to be deliberate. What do I mean by this? Well, if the last word of every line ends with a word that just happens to rhyme with the one before it, simply for the reason that it rhymes with the word at the end of the line before it, that's not poetry. That's you rhyming to impress yourself. A poem has to have a point, has to have a purpose, a focus, has to have somewhere it's going. Otherwise, you're just throwing words at the wind. Now, my greatest strength is actually fiction, so I tend to navigate more toward narrative poetry. But even if you're not doing a narrative poem, your poem has to be going somewhere, and it has to have a conclusion. Incomplete thoughts are not poetry. Irritation can be a good motivator for writing a good poem. Now, the poem I opened this video with, which, as I explained earlier, is a really crappy poem, that was spawned from my irritation with a particular amateur poet on DeviantArt who I'm not going to mention here. I have no desire to slander people. But crappy as that poem was, it led me to write a different poem, one that was better. And I will attempt to read it to you as an example. Let's be crazy for a while, crazy in love with our crazy. You be manic and I'll be depressive, in such moods we are excessive. Your domination is quite impressive, hold this leash and secure my chains. Locked inside my brain, crazy insane, I'm fairly inane as my sanity wanes. I'm raving and foaming and raving about some obscure obnoxious craving. Foaming, ranting, such a fuming fritter, like some poor deluded critter. That's a rap, rapping on the walls, leaping from the falls, bounding down the halls. What fun to be had in mania! Maniacal denial is just my style. The rope is frayed, just let it go. Who needs a tether anyhow? Screaming and howling, what a pretty sound. Am I pretty now? Pretty in pink, pink in the sink is pink. Who wants a drink? Here's to you and here's to me. Let's transvest our personalities. 2 of you and 3 of me will make such exciting company. Slow and steady wins the race, but tranks and restraints will put a smile on anyone's face. Let's trace the scars that lock our hearts, lock our fingers and kiss the scars. Seeking the stars, stealing cars, leaping far. Crazy in our love, we're in love with our crazy. Who needs waterfalls? We've got whitewashed halls. Roses on pale, washed-out cheeks, stars in our glazed and staring eyes. All we have to do is fantasize. We've left the world behind. All that matters is you, all that matters is me. Who needs our sanity? This is a poem by someone who hates using exact rhyme. I'm not really sure what you thought of my poem. Maybe you liked it, maybe you hated it, maybe you just didn't care, but if you'll notice, the rhyme never seems accidental. I drop it in some places, and then pick it up again later, but it never seems accidental. At least I don't think it does. That's because for me, the poem was not about the rhyme. I was interested in telling a story and exploring a theme. The point is, rhyming should never be the focus of your poem. If your poem rhymes, make it about something. And put more thought into what words you use. If you want to make them rhyme, then yes, go for words that rhyme. But put more thought into it than just the first one that comes to your head. Put a rhythm in there. That's what rhyme is for. I mean, honestly, I feel that you can easily put a song-like rhythm even, into a poem, whether you use rhyme or not. But if you're gonna use rhyme, put a rhythm in it. Otherwise, what's the point? Now, I've not ever managed to publish the poem I just read, which is one of the reasons I chose to read it in this video. Shameless self-promotion, I know. But the last publisher I tried to submit Singing Insanity to, yes, that's the name of the poem, Singing Insanity. Even in the title, I put in a word game. But the last publisher I submitted Singing Insanity to suggested that it would work better as what they called slam poetry. I'm not a very experienced poet, so I had to look that up. Apparently they thought it was a poem that was meant to be performed and not just written and read. I'm not really certain how anyone on YouTube feels about these writer topics that I've been focusing on in my videos. Last time I talked to my fiance, after she'd watched my first two videos, she actually flat out told me that what I had talked about was boring, and that no one on YouTube was going to view me if I continued to speak on these topics. I don't know, maybe she was right. But at the moment, it's what I know best, and it's what I'm most comfortable with talking about. So, I'm gonna keep it up. Maybe I'll get more views, maybe people will just avoid me like the plague. Who cares at this point? Well, that's all for tonight. So, for now, naskledano and Diftor Hismuzma. Later.
This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10.